So I get a lot of emails and messages and PMs and messenger stuff and all this Instagram video, people asking me stuff. And it's just easier to cover in a podcast format. Now, you're not supposed to podcast on a video format, but I have a YouTube channel, so this is the podcast. So after the intro, put your earplugs in. This is good if you're in the airport on a layover, you got a delayed flight, you're sitting on the can maybe. Anyway, I'm going to cover some concepts people are asking, and it's just easier to do a podcast format. And then, of course, I'm going to keep shooting stuff. So here we go. Podcast. Put your earplugs in, turn the volume up, and let's see what happens. Because I'm crazy, baby. Do you think he exploded?
I don't know.
Hey, this is podcast 2 from the Ranch Fairy, and this is the topic no one discusses out there. It's something that's been burning at me. I've been trying to prove it, to show it, and it's very difficult, so I'm going to do a podcast. Of course, has no video, but I need you to reference some of the videos on my channel, and yeah, I'm a self-promoting son of a gun. Duh, no one else is going to do it. Although, if you like this, please forward, send it to your friends, tell them how great I am, because it's really fun. So what I mean by edge integrity is the ability of the blade on your broadhead to remain sharp through impact, through the chest wall, which does not include the lungs and heart, and then into the thoracic region, which I'm going to define for the common man as between the ribs. And that's where the killing happens. One of the things that we are seeing and that we continue to see as we've started to play with some super thick, very heavy, crazy monolithic S7 steel Bishop stuff, the Magnus products with the nasty serrations, and honestly some of the thicker bladed steels and stainless above 0.05 and 0.06 preferably, is the edge of the blade's ability to stay sharp through impact and arrive into the lungs and heart very, very sharp. We often shoot the monolithic stuff and the higher quality stuff completely through a large feral hog, shield bones, mud, crust, fat, everything, and on the other side it is still pretty ticky-tacky. We don't see this with some of the less expensive broadheads that are very thin, and then you can call me a mechanical hater or whatever you want. There's no way to make the blades thick and have excellent structural integrity and to make them 2 inches long and to make them 100 grains. That is a demand from the public, from us, the consumers, that the broadhead companies are trying to meet. Is physically impossible. When we shot mechanicals 5 to 7 years ago, when I stopped shooting them because they're garbage and they will fail you, but when we did, we were 50% at best on pigs. Deer is still kind of wonky because you hit some weird stuff. But the pigs started to reveal a weakness, and that weakness was the blades. The broadheads we did recover, if they ever went 3/4 of a way through one, were absolutely shredded. You hear people and read and see comments and that kind of thing on a lot of the message boards and stuff, and they just say, hey man, I consider them disposable. I mean, that's a kind of a roundabout way of admitting that the steel's not worth a crap. Aluminum and very thin blades. Again, this is not a discussion on mechanicals. There's a lot of fixed blade broadheads out there that have 0.025 thick blades, something, garbagey like that. And then they literally can't survive the impact of, say, some decent hair, cut through some fat, and then they got to deal with bones, which just shred the blades. If what you guys who are listening to this have never picked up a broadhead with shredded blades, I'm just glad that you have had that experience. But I got to tell you, I'm over 100 pigs and lots of deer, and I have not shot elk because I suck at elk hunting, but Africa, the whole 9 yards. And the thinner bladed broadheads have shredded on me. They look like they've been flattened. And I think that's the biggest thing. I don't know that the shredded blades, while that's horrible and shouldn't happen, are that much of a detriment, because they honestly get into the lungs. I can't say that's not true, and they will grab and tick and tack and grab and pick like pinkin shears, right? They'll shred. So at some level, that's decent damage. But what concerns me is the ability or the idea that the blades flatten on impact. And I'm 100% convinced. I have not been able to prove this. But after multiple losses, I'm just trying to connect the dots here, right? Multiple different shooters, multiple different skill levels. I really, really believe some of the weird losses where somebody says, man, I hit that thing right in the 10 ring, be it a deer or an elk or, psych a deer, whatever. Beyond the 3 inches of penetration that we're currently experiencing with all the pros on the freaking YouTube and on the hunting channels, it's pathetic. Get 7 inches of penetration and say, I think I hit a rib. Yeah, no kidding, man. There's like 26 ribs on the thing, if you count both sides. I believe in my heart of hearts that the blades are getting flattened from not necessarily very sharp out of the package, because they're not that sharp. A lot of the base stuff and most of the mechanicals, I consider their edges to be garbage, to a completely flattened butter knife that has very limited ability to cut unless it just hits something massive. Understand this. The facts are this. Arteries, where the blood comes out of the heart, the highest blood pressure organs in any animal, including you, are semi-muscular. They're actually not real easy to cut. Just talk to somebody who's a nurse or a respiratory therapist and try to see if they've ever tried to do an arterial stick. And you watch these arteries roll out of the way of a needle, and then you're a bow hunter and you're thinking, holy smokes, how many times has that happened? And my blood trail is 100 yards longer, or it's one of those weird, decent blood trails at the start, tapers off, and it's a super long night. So it's another argument for what I call adult broadheads. Something cut on contact with good steel, and if you really want to get crazy, you get some of the monoliths and hand sharpen them and run them on rouge and get a piece of leather and get those things so sharp they will shave your face. You will see a difference. You will see shorter recovery distances, because that broadhead's going to zip through, break bone, be intact, and have very, very high integrity. Don't forget the Magnus stuff. All right, this is the Ranch Fairy. If you enjoyed this podcast, please forward it to your friends. Thanks to Magnus Archery, Bishop Archery, Hunter's Blend Coffee. Look for me on Instagram and buy yourself an Easy V sight, because that thing's awesome. Ranch Fairy out.